Hi everyone, my name is Tamari Lana and I'm the Executive Director of FabCollab. And this is the Curtain Call series, which is a weekly series that focuses and features women and non-binary folks in the performing arts sector. So this week, super excited to be interviewing Luminato Festival's Artistic Director, Naomi Campbell. Hey Erin, hey Ori, hi guys, welcome. So I'm gonna bring her on right now. Here we go, out to join. And so just for those of you tuning in, we're speaking live today with Luminato Artistic Director, Naomi Campbell. Hey, there she is.
Hi.
How are you doing? Hi.
I'm okay, I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. So how are you doing today, first and foremost?
I'm all right. Happy to be here, away from my email for an hour with you, or however long we're together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I feel the same.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm in Hamilton visiting my dad and his wife who just got out of surgery. So I'm just outside the hospital, but I'm going to show you the view because it's so beautiful. Look at this. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you ever come here,
Amazing.
Go to the mountain and see the view. So I'm also happy to be outside and talking to you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're talking today with Luminato Festival's Artistic Director, Naomi Campbell. And she's had various roles at Luminato. We're going to get into that. And we're going to talk about this year's programming, of course, which is June 9th to 19th. And also just a bit about Naomi and, you know, who she is and how she got here and all that jazz. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the show, Naomi. And
Thank you very much.
Let's just go all the way back. Thanks. So I want to know, you know, like I just want to go backwards a little bit and ask, I have so many questions, but my first one, I guess, is what brought you to the arts to begin with?
I don't even really know how to answer that question just because it's always been in our lives in my family. My father was involved in the theater before I was born, from an amateur, but also professionally. He was one of Productions, which was one of Canada's first alternative theater companies. And they actually, in their last days, many years later, like they were the people who had the building where Buddies and Bad Times is now. That was formerly Toronto Workshop Productions.
No way.
So yeah, I grew up, you know, one of my earliest memories is going to Stratford and seeing work in the tent, which sort of ages me a little bit. And I mean, like as a 3-year-old, like I don't remember, I just remember being taken to a show and it being an experience. And so just always going to the theater from the time I was really young. My father directed plays, and I would go and watch rehearsals. I was in shows from a young age.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Now I want to see a show with you in it.
Oh, it's been a long time.
Do you still do shows?
No, I don't perform. I mean, you know, except, you know, at Luminato, I will perform myself on stage on a regular basis throughout the festival. But no, I haven't been on stage professionally since the 80s. So okay. I've moved from on the stage to, I tried to quit the theater I have a degree in political science. And then when I was done, I was like, what am I going to do? And I got a job working in a theater company and, you know, just done all sorts of different jobs in the theater ever since.
Right.
And I just didn't know what else to do and do the work that was important to me through the theater and other art forms.
So theater is really your first love in the arts.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I also trained as a dancer and I, you know, grew up in a very, my sister, as Tamara knows, she's performed with my sister, like my sister's a singer and, you know, it's always been, indeed. Yes. We should say her name, Rebecca Campbell. You'll never find her on Instagram or anywhere. Like,
well, I thought we'd never find you on Instagram. So you never know.
I don't think she's here at all, but yeah.
But she also runs manages the Transact right now, and she's also involved in the arts, you know. So yeah, I guess it just runs in the family. I totally understand. I tried to escape too, and escape music and got a degree in biology. And I was like, I'm going to be normal. I'm not going to, you know, travel and grants and music and all this stuff. But, you know, you can't resist the true nature of your own life and upbringing, I guess. And I'm hearing that from you.
Right.
But that brings me to my, like, another thing I wanted to ask you, which is like, my degree in biology really like influences a lot of how I see the world and how everything, how I really like just understand the world. And I was going to ask you, does political science ever influence like the way that you see music and art and how you program even?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, certainly I got to political science in some ways, probably through the theater. I mean, in that, you know, over the years of working in the theater, you end up learning about other things that you wouldn't otherwise know about or become a specialist in. And certainly, you know, politics has always been important to me, and another big sort of family influence, you know, always, you know, it's the state of the world. I think it's important to most people. So but certainly, yes, my interest in any kind of art is in what it has to say. You know, form and content both. I'm interested in different kinds of work and how different disciplines manifest in different forms, but also what it is that people are trying to say through the work, and what are the stories that they're telling, and not just sort of, you know, not just escapism and entertainment, which is not to say there's anything wrong with that. But I think there's lots of avenues for that in the world, and I'm more interested in sort of telling the stories of the day. I mean, there's so much urgent stuff going on, and we have these incredible ways to talk about it through music, through theater, dance, ways that affect people in their bodies and then their heads, right? So like, just it feels like to me like the, you know, communicating through cultural activities is whatever they are, whichever kind, is kind of way gets to the essence of the matter, sometimes more efficiently, and then it leads people to do their own research and investigating and talking and thinking and having conversations that they might not otherwise have. So that's always been, I've always leaned in my work towards more, I suppose, political work, or
I can see that
work. Yeah, I mean, I think we have this incredible opportunity, and that's also in the festival as well, as of putting ideas out there in the world.
So what are some of like the most like risky political, I don't know if risky is the right word, but strong political statements in art that you've sort of put out through Luminato? Can you tell us some examples like over the past few years?
Well, I mean, certainly, you know, we've like this year's festival says a lot about climate. A lot of, I mean, that's obviously such an urgent topic for so many people now in the world, and you know, it's kind of like, you know, the clock is ticking, and so that means that people are making work about the environment, which means that in terms of programming, there are lots of opportunities to talk about it. Also, obviously, giving voice and platform to previously underrepresented communities, to Black artists, to Indigenous artists, to you know, that's a really important. We have this platform, and sharing it is really important, so that as many different sort of voices are represented who have not had that access.
I mean, I could not agree more. That is the exact mandate of FabCollab. And that's one of the reasons that I also work at Luminato, is because of those, you know, beliefs and what you do about them, you know. So what are some examples, I guess, this year of the programming? I mean, there's a couple that touch on climate change. Maybe we can talk about a couple of those examples this year that really talk about.
I mean, the most sort of strikingly obvious one is Edward Burtynsky's In the Wake of Progress, which I think folks might have heard about already, because we've been supposed to present it for a couple of years. Pandemic has, you know, obviously gotten in the way of that. But it'll be at Yonge Dundas Square on all the screens with big speakers, a loud, very visceral experience right on the square. It'll be really remarkable. And that's sort of the cornerstone of the first weekend's activities. But to support that, like, we're hosting all these other things on the site, concerts and conversations, including a conversation between Ed and David Suzuki and Dr. Pam Palmater, which I think is going to be an incredible conversation on Saturday afternoon, the 11th at 3 o'clock at Yonge Dundas Square. Yeah, that's
you don't want to miss that.
Everybody, it's going to.
Well, I want to repeat that. 3 o'clock on Saturday, June 11th, right? To calculate that.
Yep.
Yonge and Dundas Square, live free talk between Ed Bertinsky, David Suzuki, and who's the third person you mentioned?
And Dr. Pamela Palmater, who's the head of Indigenous Governance program at Metropolitan Toronto University, whatever it's called now, and a great activist and politician, awesome woman. She's incredible. So
don't miss that.
I think it'll make for a very, very dynamic conversation.
Wow.
So that
and how did you think about programming that? Sorry, go ahead. I'll ask you after.
Well, so there's one of the other big pieces that we're doing about climate change is Why Not Theatre's production of What You Won't Do for Love, which is a piece that they've developed over the last bunch of years with Dr. David Suzuki and his wife, Dr. Tara Cullis. And it's a piece about their now 5-decade-long relationship and how they sort of manifest their own love through their love of the planet, and these sort of like the constant like the main question in the piece, which they perform with a younger couple, Miriam Fernandez and Sturla Alvig, and they are Miriam is the co-artistic director at Why Not Theatre, I believe, or anyway, she and Ravi run the company together, and Ravi Jain, who's the director of the show. Sorry, a lot of detail there.
That's okay.
But the piece is like this conversation between an older couple and a younger couple about love, about the nature of relationship, and why we can put all of our focus and our love and our empathy into another person, but what if we did that also for the planet? And would we not be in a better place, perhaps? It's a beautiful piece, and it's really sweet to see David Suzuki on stage, which is not something that he normally does, although obviously he's a very seasoned performer, having been on The Nature of Things for 61 years.
Wow, that's wild.
A long television run, if ever there was one. So anyway, because he was going to be here and Ed was going to be here, it was like, well, those two should talk, and they should talk in public. Like that would be a good idea, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, but that's too, like, with all due respect, too elderly, two older men, cis men, who I thought we needed to like inject another voice into that conversation. And so that's where Dr. Palmater came to be in the conversation. And there's also going to be a number of sort of youth delegates, part of Lakeshore Arts, who will be asking, like, sort of between the ages of, I believe they're like 10 to 13-year-old kids, who will be asking some provocative questions of the three of them as well as part of that conversation. So it's going to be a very wonderful afternoon. And there's music that afternoon as well. And we're running a kind of eco fair. So there'll be sustainable products and places to put your learning into action, ways to take action to help everybody's struggle with the climate crisis. So we'll be sort of running a little on-site eco fair as well. So it'll be a really fun time on the square.
I just want to put that in perspective. That's 1 hour out of 10 days of programming. Okay.
But also, if you go down to see that, there's music afterwards. There's, like, as I said, the eco fair, there's a participatory art installation. There's all these other things. So whenever you go, like, the idea is, especially for our outdoor work this year, wherever you go, there often will be something else to do as well. It won't just be one thing.
Amazing.
One of the things that I think we should talk about is, because it's such a kind of wacky and wonderful project, is Art in Transit.
Let's get that. I want to comment on one thing about this talk, this 3 p.m. talk that as I was listening to, I just want to say it sounds like your whole life in like one talk, like your political science, your theater, your programming, you know, what you believe in, current events, climate change. It's just like incredible that you managed to put all that into like this one nugget of gold, really. So I'm excited to go and see that. Congrats on that huge work. That's
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that one, we will be recording that as well so that it can be shared afterwards. But it'll be way better to be there live in person. Live in person is what it's all about. Standing shoulder to shoulder with other folks in, you know, and in a, you know, an outdoor space. So like, you know, COVID is not going to get in the way of a lot of what we're doing this year because we're doing a lot of work outdoors.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, tell us about Art in Transit.
To go along with that, just so you know, the weather that week, it's going to be fantastic. So.
Obviously. Of course. We've been planning the weather for 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
About Art in Transit. I can't wait for that one. That's so
cool. Art in Transit is this really fun project that's going to happen on each of the weekdays of the festival. It starts on the first day, the 9th, and so it runs the 9th and the 10th. And then the 13th to the 17th, which is Monday to Friday. So Thursday, Friday, Monday to Friday. So that's 7 days, right? And there are 7 go lines that come from outside of Toronto down into Union Station. Yeah. So on each of those days, a different line will be brought to life with the story of Fish. And Fish is a fish character. A fish.
But who's it played by? Who's it played by?
He needs by the brilliant and wonderful comic actor Anand Rajaram, who is just an amazing actor and improviser and clown, and will be directing the Dream in High Park this summer. Actually,
I didn't know that. Wait, I have a question about him. Is he actually His Royal Highness, or is that just his stage name?
I think if he says he's His Royal Highness, I have to believe him.
I know.
Yes. It's HRH Anand Rajaram. Why? Yeah. I've never felt I needed to ask him if it was actually. You know, this is one of my favorite lines from a Timberlake Winnebaker play. Is that her last name? Oh my God, what's it called? I know what it's called. Our Country's Good. One of the it's about prisoners making theater, and one of them said, you know, like one of them says, you know, I'm supposed to play a queen, a queen. Why would anybody believe I'm a queen? I'm just I'm a prisoner in this jail. And somebody else says, this is the theater. We will believe you. So if Anand Rajaram tells you that he is HRH, I will believe him because this is the theater.
I love that. That was the best answer. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're talking, for those of you that's just joining, I just want to welcome you. Hi, Analia. Hi, Aaron. Thanks for posting links to these different shows. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Anne. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're talking today with Naomi Campbell, Artistic Director of Luminato, and we're getting into some really interesting stuff about the festival that you might not know just by, you know, the press or anything like that. But only Naomi knows. So, so we're talking about Art in Transit and the fact that there's going to be music and a fish, on the GO train for the 7 weekdays of the festival. So yeah, tell us more about that. Who else is going to be on the train? So
if you check the website, there's it'll tell you which line we're on every day. It'll be in the morning.
First one? Oh my gosh. I can't remember. I think it's Vaughan, but I could be wrong.
No, Vaughan is on
later.
Monday, I believe.
The first one of the next week.
Brampton is on the Friday. The first day, I think it's Richmond Hill, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It is on that link that somebody just put in the.
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah. Cool.
It is. So it's the story of fish trying to get back to the lake. So every one of those GO lines ends up at Union Station, which is really close to the lake. So we're basically covering the watershed around Toronto through these journeys and bringing them all down into the center one by one over the course of the festival.
Oh, awesome.
And each day Fish gets on the train, a different train, and tries to get home, basically, to the water. And on the train encounters musicians and dancers, and there's little performances. We'll be given a prompt on how to think about it's connected to another one of our projects called All in Good Time, which is a ceremony to recover. It's a ceremony that helps us with the ideas of addressing the ceremonies that we couldn't have because during COVID, essentially. Beautiful piece of work developed by Andrea Nan and Dreamwalker Dance. And there'll be a prompt every day of the festival. That prompt it'll be available through our website. Different. And that will be given as well to fish every day on the train. Anyway, there's all these different things that happen. There's people reading books. Because we're doing that, which attaches to our project called Beloved, which is a tribute to Toni Morrison and Black women writers with Donna Bailey Nurse. And that happens at the end on the Friday and Saturday, the 17th and 18th of the festival. And so Anand will encounter all of these different things on the train. And then when they get to Union Station, every morning there'll be a different musical group who will greet fish and then help move fish out of the train station and onto a bicycle, which will take him to the lake. So that happens every morning. And it's a kind of way, it's like art in the morning. Art can happen any time of the day. It's also a way of bringing the festival to parts of the city that don't normally get it. Hopefully luring some people who are on those trains to stick around and come to see some of the other. It's just a joyful, delightful experience that will bring a beautiful spirit to the morning commute. And that people will also go, hey, I was on the train this morning and this thing happened. And as well, that didn't happen to me. And then the next day they'll come in, it'll happen on their train instead. So, we're just there's some really sweet sort of serendipity about that project, I think. And it's been devised by
really
Kathy
beautiful.
Gordon, who works on the programming team and runs all of our accessibility programs, and Caroline Hallway, who's an amazing producer who works with us. So it's and all local artists are in that project. So I think it's going to be really beautiful. And the costs are very, very magical.
I'm going to take the train just to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, and do some social media behind the scenes, but don't forget to tag Luminato if you see the fish or if you see any of that. Tag them and they'll reshare. We'll reshare it. Oh my God, that's going to be so fun. Okay, so, oh my God, there's so much going on. We can't even I don't know. You're just going to have to come. Everybody who's watching this, you have to come to all the programming because it's incredible. But Naomi, is this sort of the first year that Luminato is really expanding so much and getting out of the downtown core?
I mean, we've done the odd project in other parts of the city. Like we did a piece quite a few years ago at the McMichael Gallery in Vaughan, and we showed Le Patin Libre at the Don Montgomery ice rink in Scarborough. I think that was in 2017 or 2018. Anyway, we've had the occasional foray. Yeah. But this is the first time that we've sort of touched actually such a broad cross section of the GTA. Obviously in the future, we hope to go to other parts of the city and, be there for more than just the morning commute. But this is
it's a good beginning.
It is happening also in Brampton on the Friday the 10th, and it's happening in Vaughan on Monday the 13th. So and those are long durational. You can go to that experience anytime from 9 in the morning until 7 at night. And they'll be at Loafers Lake in Brampton and at, Merida some park in, somebody please has to help me with this one. In Vaughan. There's so many details.
It's okay. It's all on the website. People will find it.
It's on the website.
All good.
It's on the website. Yeah. So the thing is, art also it can happen in the morning. It also doesn't all have to happen downtown. I mean, there's stuff going on all over the GTA.
I agree with that.
And we want to make it so that people don't have to necessarily travel to participate in Luminato. So. And this is just the beginning of that kind of initiative. Over the next couple of years, the hope is to really to be in residence in other parts of the region. I mean, we've worked with artists from across the region for many years. Like when we did Apocalypsis, there were choirs from Kitchener and from London, I believe, and from Ottawa. Like we've had lots of artists participate from the region, but we haven't taken the work out there as much as this.
That's so exciting. Yeah. Well, congrats on that too. I want to ask, like, when did you start at Luminato?
In 2011, which is a long time ago. I started as the company manager. I did that for 1 year. And decided that I wanted to sort of take a break. So I kind of cut all my various jobs. I left a whole bunch of positions that I was all very amicably, but I stopped working with a bunch of people that I've been working with for like 15 years. And just to sort of see what would happen, because I felt like I couldn't find something new to do without stopping. So, and then, this came sort of, somebody said, hey, they're looking for a company manager. You should go talk to them. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll go in and chat. And I went in and talked, with Naomi Campbell, who also still works with us occasionally. This year, she's working with us, and with Clyde Wagner, who now is at TO Live, and decided to give it a shot, and did that for 1 year. And then Clyde said, do you want to come back and do that again? And I was like, I'd really rather work on shows because that's what I do. Like, I mean, company management is a huge logistical, very complicated, very important position where you deal with all of the travel and accommodations and visas and all of that sort of thing. And that was the year I did it was a very complicated year, actually, because that was the year of when the war started in Syria, and we had a whole lot of Syrian artists working with us, and so people couldn't go home, and we had to find them places to. Some people stayed in Canada, and other people left. Like it can be more complicated than one might think. Hopefully, this year's festival will not have any of those particular complications. But so I came back as a producer, and then over time, it was like, okay, well, we need somebody to do sort of long view working with artists for future projects. So I started doing that, and so evolved over the years. And then when Josephine Ridge, who was my predecessor, left the festival, they asked if I would take the role of artistic director, but they didn't tell me there was going to be a pandemic for 2 years, like shortly thereafter. So I wish nobody put that in the job description. There's a whole sort of slew of artistic directors across the country who all just started right before COVID, and it's like, oh, thanks. It's made for it's been a difficult time for everybody in so many different ways. But
what's the hardest thing for you?
Well, just not doing things live, I think, not being able to give artists the same kind of platform and opportunities, but also not being able to create the kind of all of the energy that happens in live performance and that happens with people between audiences and performers, that happens with audiences. I mean, one of the things that I think is so cool about a festival, as distinct from other kinds of a theater company or a music venue, is that you actually mixing everything up together means that sometimes, people go to see stuff that they wouldn't normally, that it isn't usually on their radar, or that they think they might not like, that they might be willing to take a bit bigger chance with a festival. And that you also, because, for instance, like on the both weekends we have a mix of music happening, and especially at Woodbine Park on the last weekend, on the 18th and 19th, when we have 2 full days of music programming, And, you know, you might come to see one band, but you're going to stay to see another, and therefore you're also going to, the audience is going to change around you, and you'll end up standing and talking to somebody who might have a very different sort of set of interests in music than you do. And then you'll find that actually you also have a lot in common. So I think like the kinds of things that can happen in an audience in a festival are part of what's so exciting about it.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's super true, and it's happened to me many times. So let's just touch on that, because I just want everyone to understand that the first weekend of Luminato is all, well, you tell us about the 2 weekends sort of framing the middle week.
Yeah, so we've got, you know, the first weekend's primarily at Yonge Dundas Square, but for instance, the David Suzuki show, What You Won't Do for Love, will be happening down at the Canadian Opera Centre Theatre on Front Street, indoors, in a kind of conventional fashion. In the second weekend is, you know, we have the Woodbine Weekend, which is this, you know, big, beautiful, it'll be a really joyful environment, I think, for music at Woodbine. But also there's other things that are going on. For instance, Necessary Angel Theatre Company will be presenting The Great Fire, which is an audio experience. They'll have a little nook in the woods where you can go and sit and put these headphones on and hear this beautiful story.
Wow.
We'll have Ia's tent, which will be full of activities, talks, other audio experiences, one created by Sarah Stanley. For those who are familiar in the Canadian theater scene, she's an amazing director and maker, and she's doing a piece called Massey and Me, which is a 5-part series, and this is just one of those parts about Canadian culture and what's wrong with it and what's could be right about it. So the Ideas Tent will have that and other conversations and activities and learnings. And then also just down if you cross the lake shore and go down towards the lake, Olashe Ogunlacy's piece Black Ark is a large scale visual arts installation, which will be down at the beach by Ashbridges Bay. And then also on the Sunday, the 19th, All in Good Time will take place down as well at Ashbridges Bay. And also of Water, which is this other project that we're doing that's all about water, will also culminate in these sonic boat tours, which will come to Ashbridges Bay. So we're kind of bringing a lot of the stuff together on one site so that it's more than just it's music at the core at Woodbine Weekend, but there are all these other things that will be swirling around it. And and also, you know, there'll be, you know, food and drink and hang out, and the weather will be beautiful, and it'll all be I think we're trying to create a really magical kind of environment.
Like it.
So those two are the sort of, you know, those are the pillars around which the entire festival is built. But then there's also, you know, we're doing a piece called Creation Destruction at Trillium Park, which is the sort of the furthest east part of what was Ontario Place. And it's Creation Destruction is a large-scale dance work by Animals of Distinction from Montreal, with members of Godspeed You Black Emperor playing live. And that will be like set in such a way that when you're watching the performance, the cityscape will be the backdrop. I mean, and the setting sun will go down on the glistening buildings of downtown Toronto. It's going to look magnificent. So we've got that. We've got The Cave, John Millard and Thompson Highway's beautiful apocalyptic cabaret sung through piece, which we showed in a workshop format. I mean, very fully produced but not completed version in 2019. Yes, sorry, got to get the years right. But they've added a whole layer of projection animation by the Vancouver artist Bruce Alcock, which is going to make it's stunning. Like, it's a stunning piece with an amazing ensemble of musicians and singers. Wow. And that Pass Marai will also play host every night of the festival, except for the first and the last nights, to a cabaret. So a late night cabaret, if you want to just sort of go, if you've been out and about in the city, whether you've been at a Luminato event or not, you can still come and join us from 9:30 on at Pass Marai for some entertainment and a place to hang out and have a drink and talk to artists, talk to audience members, talk to Luminato supporters of all sorts, and hopefully, like, folks who don't know what's going on will go, something's happening at Pass Marai, I'm going to check it out, and they'll be surprised we had sort of be like a late night talk show kind of vibe with, we have alternating hosts, Adam Lazarus and Eliza Paul, who are both hilarious and will make for very fun evenings every night, as I said, for 9 nights of the festival. So
it really feels like you're drawing the whole city into it, you know, like, yeah, so like the whole city's involved, whether it's like a neighborhood or an artistic, you know, group or, wow, it's just incredible. How do you, I want to ask, like, just hearing you talk about this, and I love how excited you are about everything. It's the best. It's super infectious. But like, how do you dream it all up? Do you start by like thinking of like a theme and a concept and what you want the year to look like? Do you start by thinking of neighborhoods? Do you see a piece of art and say like that and build it around that? Like, how do you dream it up?
I don't know. I think that's a sort of a cumulative process. You know, for instance, I mean, this year we knew that we were going to be at YDS because we knew that we were going to do In the Wake of Progress, because we always had. We knew that in the past, one of the things that people love the most about Luminato was the outdoor free concerts that we did at David Pico Square. Yeah. But we also knew that Pico Square was like sort of similar in a way to Young Dundas Square. I mean, they're very different as well. But, you know, how do we take some of that same sort of spirit and take it into a different neighborhood, but also into a place that feels a little bit less urban? I really was looking for, like, how do we find the rural inside the city? That was something that was interesting. I mean, certainly the desire to get out into the community was like, well, why don't we talk to like the, you know, Metrolinx and see if we can work with them? Like, it was as practical as that. And then once they said, yes, we'd love to, you know, consider something, then it's like, okay, let's figure out what that project might be like. You know, sometimes it's projects that, you know, have been in conversation with the producers for a long time, like Creation Destruction is something that we've been in conversation with for a while. Beloved, the piece of the 2 nights of about Black women writers at the Winter Garden Theater on the 17th and 18th. That's a project that Donna Bailey Nurse brought to me in 2018, I think, or maybe 2019. But she brought it a long time ago. And then, of course, you know, COVID. And then when we started to rebuild this year's festival with this desire to have both indoor and outdoor work, to sort of have some of the kind of traditional, you know, festival scenario where there's lots of things happening in theater in different parts of the city. But I went back to Donna and said, are you still interested in doing this project? And it was, you know, we built that with her.
So it's like, it's just all your years of life. Basically. I
mean, kind of like things like, you know, people also, you know, people bring projects to us. We meet artists. Olashe Ogunlesi was part of our Artists in Residence program in the summer of 2020 when we supported 10 established artists, Black artists in that first summer program that we did, which was a sort of COVID response. It's like, how can we support artists in the community when we can't do a festival properly? And so working with Diane Marie Bridge, we established our new Artist in Residence program, which is now in its 3rd iteration. The 2nd iteration was primarily curated by Denise Balduc and was all Indigenous artists. And then this year's program is smaller, but longer. So it's more, we're able to provide more resources to fewer artists rather than, so we have 5 artists who are from across disciplines, but are also all established artists. In any case, Olashe first became associated with Luminato through the Artist in Residence program, and then was like, okay, what's a large scale work that you want to do that we can help you produce?
Oh, cool.
So hopefully in the future, well, not just hopefully, in the future, we will continue to work with some of the folks who've come through the Artist in Residence program with us, because that becomes a way for us to, you know, have longer, more sort of embedded relationships.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you just a couple more. I know your time is precious, especially right before the festival. But I just want to ask you, like, what's like the scariest thing, or not, I don't know if scariest, but the thing that you programmed that, you know, people might have told you not to do it, and you had to like fight for it and program it anyway because you really believed in it, although it might have been like a disaster for the company or something. That's what I want to know.
Oh, you didn't tell me you were going to ask me a question.
I just thought of it now when I was listening to you. I'm like, wait, all these crazy ideas and all these like you know, it just seems like the sky's the limit with you. You know, you want to program like across the city and you make a phone call and it's like, you know, and you're doing all this work, constantly expanding, growing, pushing forward. And you must have like received some like pushback along the way. You know what I mean? And it just made me think like, what is that? And plus your political science background and, strong beliefs and what how programming can help towards things like climate change and all this stuff. So I don't know. I just thought I'd ask. We can save it for another time if you want to think about it.
I mean, I think some of the conversations that we had, not in this, do you mean in this year's festival or in other years?
Anytime. Yeah.
I mean, I certainly think some of the conversations that we had around Out the Window and Henry G20 about the police accountability were thought to be risky conversations, but ended up also being some of the most amazing and fantastic conversations that have been had in a public forum under our auspices. That's for sure. Not to say they haven't happened elsewhere, and with our, like, for our audiences, that those were challenging, and but like let's put it out there. I think, I don't know. I mean, I think, there's always a range of opinions. One person's pushback is another person's embrace, right? And like there may be somebody who's going to, flag something and say, I think that's going to be a problem. And somebody else is going to go, that problem is an incredible opportunity to reach a different group of people, or to question, sometimes logistically, like, we've done some complicated stuff, and certainly even just, that working with Metrolinx, working with a public transportation system is like, that's complicated. And I know that the team that's working on that has to look at all sorts of different scenarios, and there's a lot of unpredictability on the trains and what may or may not happen. You can't tell. You don't have control over the audience in any way in that situation, which is one of the things that's super exciting about it, because people are encountering it like by mistake. They don't know necessarily that they're planning to see this event, but that might irritate some people too, and other people it's going to make really happy, and we just have to be prepared for all scenarios. And of course, weather is weather, but the weather's going to be perfect, and COVID is
we know that
COVID. And we talked in our production meeting this morning about understudies and what do you do if somebody gets sick. We are doing our very, very best to make sure that we create the conditions where people are safe and healthy. And
I did Via Rail has like a cross Canada program where you play for the passengers on the train. I did it a couple of times, and it's exactly like you said. Some people were so happy, and some people were like, what is happening to me? It was so fun. Maybe Luminato can get on Via Rail next year.
That's right. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Oh yeah. Across the country.
The fish travels through the train, so nobody, like, if it's irritating, he'll be gone in a minute, and if you love it, you can follow him to the next car.
That sentence is so good. The fish travels through the train. For those of you who just joined, they're like, what is that? Basically, Luminato has a GO Train program called Artists in Transit, so you'll have to get on the GO Train during the festival to see what that's about. But that comment is so good. The fish travels through the train. Out of context, it's brilliant. What else, like, just before we get to the end, what's like a little nugget that you think that people might go overlooked in the festival that you really want to draw people's attention to? I think that Woodbine weekend is full of gems and surprises, both in the music program, where there are artists from Ukraine, there are artists from Haiti, from Australia, and many brilliant Canadian artists and American artists. I think there's some real treats in there across the program. Horace Andy, who is one of the singers from Massive Attack, is playing our closing concert on Saturday night, like our sort of like, which will be a blast. Sunday at the end of the program, DJ Shub is playing, who just won a Juno. But I think also once you get to Woodbine, like there's just going to be these little treats in the woods. There's going to be parades that will take you down to the lake.
Like, I just think there's going to be something really, I really hope that people just find themselves there, and they end up staying for, you know, 8 or 9 hours. Like, but on the other hand, also, if you're cruising by on your bicycle, I think it's going to be something really sweet to see. I also think, of course, you know, like, to be at Young Dundas Square, and this is not overlooked, but to be at Young Dundas Square for at least half an hour between 8 and 11 on Saturday or Sunday night is going to be the place to be in Toronto, because Pinsky's piece is really something like very, very unique. Also, and I haven't mentioned this, the Queer Songbook Orchestra is paying tribute to Beverly Glenn Copeland on Friday night, the 10th of June at Young Dundas Square as well. Glenn Copeland is like a fantastic, amazing, sublime songwriter and singer. And he's in his late 70s and is sort of having this incredible renaissance in his career. It's really beautiful. And he's going to be singing, he's going to be there, but also there'll be some really amazing special guests who are going to sing. And it's the debut of the Queer Songbook Youth Orchestra, which means that there'll be a full orchestra on stage. There'll be 40 people on stage. That is going to be a very magical, beautiful evening as well. So I don't know, like, there's a little,
there's something,
I don't know, there's something to do every day, of course, but I also know people have to pick and choose, and they have other things, busy things to do.
Just come to it all. You can do your work from wherever these days. Bring your computer and work from the festival. Just gonna say. Okay, so I guess I just have a couple more, but like, I really wanted to ask you, and I kind of asked this out of order, but it's okay. But what was like your very first programming experience? Do you remember?
In my what's the order of things then? The first festival that I worked on, and I was part of a team. I did not program it myself, but I was part of the organizing team for the what was the Bread and Butter Theatre Festival in Guelph, Ontario, in 1989, which was one of 5 festivals, popular theatre festivals, meaning popular, not meaning like necessarily popular like pop music popular, but popular like of the people, theater festivals that happened across Canada in the 80s. And the last one, no, I guess it was the second last one, was called Bread and Butter and happened in Guelph. And yeah, that was the first sort of programming side of things that I did. But I think my interest in festivals came largely from touring with works to other festivals, with couple of companies, in particular Mammalian Diving Reflex, who I did a lot of touring with internationally and nationally. And that's where I feel like I kind of really like working, attending and working at Magnetic North Theatre Festival, where I programmed the industry series for a few years in the 2008, 9, 10. I also programmed Rhubarb in 2003. The Rhubarb Festival at Buddies in Bad Times Theater, which is an experimental festival of all kinds of art. And there were folks I met there that I still, have long relationships with. So, yeah, I guess.
So a lot.
That was the first, like Rhubarb was the first one that I sort of programmed on my own, but I had done programming prior to that. And I guess, I used to say, like, as an independent theater producer in Toronto in the 90s and early 2000s, I would basically program a season of work of a bunch, like 5 or 6 different shows over the course of the year that were from different artists and with different kinds of approaches to the work, but was sort of, and I was the through line and the sort of commonality there. And so that was my programming, was through the kinds of work that I produced and supported. So I used to think that sort of felt like the beginning of programming for me.
Yeah. Wow. And where, then of course that leads into, what do you want to do, or what do you see, like this can be formatted in so many ways, but basically, like, what do you want to bring to Toronto and to the table and to Luminato in terms of programming, like in the next foreseeable future, the next 5 to 10 years? Like how big do you want to get? Like, what are your dreams, like, for the city, for Luminato, for yourself, really? I know it's all intertwined, right? But yeah, you can take any angle you like.
I mean, one of the things we've talked about in terms of like the city is, you know, that we really look at the city as this bigger, like there's this downtown here, but there's this whole big city that kind of like the 905 and the region that surrounds it in the sort of, you know, arc around the center, and to really like to be able to work in community in other parts of the city, not just for a sort of fleeting moment like we are this year, but to go and be in residence in other parts of the city, or to the region. And because when I say the city, I mean the city. When people talk about Toronto and they're like coming from another part of the world and they've heard about Toronto, like they are hearing about a city that's like the whole GTA, the bigger region. Like that is this place where hundreds of languages are spoken, and all of the food that is available in other parts of the city. It doesn't all happen in the downtown. So I think we need to like be more of the Toronto that people imagine when they're coming from somewhere else.
That's really cool, because usually I hear people from Toronto saying that people from elsewhere need to understand Toronto more how we think about it. But this is the first time I've heard somebody say the opposite, that we need to be more like people imagine us to be. That's really interesting. I'm going to think about that one. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to point that
No, that's okay.
Very interesting thought out. Yeah. Okay, so be more like...
You know, we can tour, like it's a big region too. So we could do a show that we do one weekend in downtown, one weekend in Mississauga, one weekend in Markham, right? Like there is we could create little internal circuits as well. So that if we're bringing work from other parts of the world, that we don't just only exclusively share it downtown. I also think one of the things that Luminato should do is, when we think about international work, like in the past, and in this, you know, not exclusively, but a lot of international festivals, for ease and because of capacity and stuff, tend towards presenting more work from you know, Western Europe, the States, other English language countries around the world. And I think when we say international, it would be great to be even more truly international than that. So bringing work from all around the world.
I agree with that. Amen to that. I can't wait. Now, is there anything, first of all, thank you so much for taking this time today, right before the festival. Really appreciate it. And for those of you who don't know, I also work at Luminato on the marketing team, and Naomi's just amazing to work with all the time. And I've been at Luminato for over a year now, and just witnessed like expansion, growth, acceptance internally in the company, and it's really beautiful to see. And I'm learning a lot from working with this wonderful team of people. So I'm also grateful to be there and to spend this time with you, because I never get to just hang out with you. That's so awesome.
Wow. Thank you. It's been really nice. It's been fun. I was nervous, you know.
Nah, you're theater.
It's just like being on team for, you know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I still get nervous every time, any performance, anytime I'm live, I get nervous every single time right before. It's ridiculous. It's been like thousands of millions of times. It still happens. So, yeah. So I understand. But is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanna just, you know, talk about before we all move on with the next parts of our day?
No, I just hope people come. I do. I'm really proud of what we put together. Really, I think it's, you know, there's the sort of initial layer of work that was announced, and there's a whole there's a subterranean layer that's just been announced this week of all. It's a very rich program, I think.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
So many beautiful artists do so many different things, and I think I just hope, I want as many people as possible to come out and enjoy it and respond to it. And
no, I don't doubt that will happen, because also I'm going to just drop this on behalf of Luminato. There's a membership program that you can also get for really cheap. It's like $50, I think, for the whole year. And you get special access and discounts and all sorts of cool stuff behind the scenes of the show. So you can really not miss out on anything and catch it all. And I'm very excited. I'm excited too. Yeah, can't wait. So we'll see you there. Yeah. Opening night, June 9th, Dundas Square. We'll see you there. The following weekend, Woodbine Park and surrounding area. In between, on the GO train and many other places in between. Check it out, luminatofestival.com. Follow us on social media, Luminato. This one right here that Naomi's on. And we'll see you there.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Tamara. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Say hi when you see us there.
Yeah, please do.
Bye. Have a good day.